Hello, some of you may remember this little A600 from my video about the PiStorm. Now, one of the problems I pointed out in that video, and it's the same for pretty much all of the modern accelerators that do retargetable graphics, is why I've got one nice little HDMI cable that pops out of it for the RTG graphics into the monitor. Whenever we do anything with the Amiga's original graphical chipset, well, we don't get any output out of the HDMI output. Oh no, that has to come from the Amiga's own video output, the original one. So if you want to easily be able to use the RTG graphics and the Amiga's graphics for games, well, then you have to have a monitor that supports both analog RGB and also HDMI, which this monitor happens to. But it's a bit of a pain in a place that I won't mention because, well, the algorithm will get upset and that itself is a pain in exactly the same location. I've wanted a solution for this so it can all come out of a one neat HDMI cable because I don't want to be running multiple video cables, and also I want to be able to use it on the TV in the living room and it doesn't have an analog input anymore. So something has arrived in the post to solve this problem. Let me open this up. Hopefully, it won't take me too long. Okay, so what we have in here is a little board, you can see, designed to go over the graphics chip in the Amiga 600. I'll put that a bit more in focus. And a little ribbon cable that's going to link it to the Pi that's in there. What this is something called the frame thrower. Yeah, got to be careful how I pronounce that one. Now, this device essentially acts as, you can think of it as a camera module for the Pi. And we connect into the Pi's camera module thing, which means we can now snarf all the video signals that come off the chip. We can essentially digitize them, shove them over the ribbon cable, and then the Pi is then able to essentially push them down the HDMI cable like it would any kind of webcam that you'd attach to the Pi, or the Pi camera board, for example. Now, this is a really cool way of doing this because it's got a couple of advantages. Apart from I now have one cable that I can output all my video over, and I don't have to worry about changing inputs on my monitor when I say, for example, launch a game. It also all happens on the Pi side of things. Now, I don't know if you've seen the original video I did about the PiStorm and how it operates. If you want to know the details of how it operates, go back and watch that video. I'll put a link in the description below. But essentially, the main bottleneck in a system like this is where we go from things happening on the Pi side and cross over the original 68K CPU that we've shut down for the purpose of doing this and back into the Amiga's bus. So anything that has to cross over that divide, well, that becomes an extreme bottleneck. But all of this happens on the Pi side of things. None of this has to cross into the emulated 68K world. So this has pretty much no impact on the performance of the Amiga itself, whilst finally giving us an answer of how to get the video down the HDMI cable with as little CPU load on the Pi as possible. Right, but in order to make use of this, I am going to have to upgrade MU68, which is the software side of the Pi thing that runs the show, because that doesn't have support, or the version on there doesn't have support for this frame thrower. It is also missing support for Wi-Fi as well, which they have introduced. So I'm looking forward to getting that working in there. So we're going to take this A600 apart, which is, I've removed the screws already, so should be relatively quick. And then we'll get the little SD card out of there, get it into a more modern machine where we can download the SD card image and update it. And then hopefully we'll be able to fit this frame thrower and get the whole lot up and running. Right, so hopefully this case should not be too hard to open up. I'll just disconnect the power, which is currently turned off. I don't particularly want the cable in the way. And then we need to get this thing open. Now it's unscrewed at the front and it's unscrewed. So let's just pull the mouse out as well. Yeah, so there's just those two screws in at the moment left to remove, which I will just get a screwdriver and then I shall open that up. Right, so we've got our little screwdriver set, which you've seen in many of my videos. Oof. There we go. Get these screws out that hold the case shut and the floppy drive in place. Now you'll see the HDMI lead isn't coming out because at the moment that's just plugged onto the Pi board inside, so you think it's like a permanent fixture right now. At some point I need a little socket glued in the back, but I've been waiting until I essentially get a solution to this problem with the outputs. There we go, right. Can now open the case up, and here we can see our little 600. We got the PiStorm board there. We got the Pi compute module that we're using for this, and then we got a little bit of extra chip RAM as well, so it can have a bit more display memory. And then you can see my hastily clutched together HDMI output. We can finally wiggle the cable out the way there. You can see I desoldered the RF modulator on this thing to make a bit of room. Oh, that is not easy to get out. Oops. Let's get the keyboard ribbon out properly. There we go. Don't want to break or damage that. Right, can we... Yeah, I'll undo the remaining screw so we can take the floppy drive out of the way. Give us a bit more space to work. There we go, that gives us a bit more room to access stuff. Now if you can see, the PiStorm accelerator kind of vampires or digs its teeth in around that chip, and this board's going to do the same thing. Essentially it's going to go over one of the chips, the graphics chip, and pop out. Now, clearances for this are going to be fun, because I've got to get it close enough so I can get the ribbon into that board there. Now, I might remove the Pi board out, compute module, so we can see, yeah, there's the connector, the ribbon cable, oh, or is it that one there? Camera, yeah. Camera, so that's the camera input to this board, so I need to route the ribbon cable into that, which will come out on this side here, and then we need to get this board over the graphics chip. I think there should be enough clearance for this to work, but first things first, I need this SD card out, because this is what we're going to have to update our image with. Right, I'm going to retire to the laptop now. Right, I've now managed to update the SD card image, as you saw, and it's time to actually put the frame thrower on. Now, first things first is we're going to get the ribbon cable attached to it, which is pretty easy to do. We just, hopefully you can see this on the camera. We just pull back the clip, we can pop the ribbon cable in, and we just close the clip, grasping it in place. It basically works the same way as the keyboard ribbon on the Amiga. Right, we now install this. It goes this way around and goes over the Denise chip. Now, if you're wondering if you can get these for the A500, you can. Obviously, it's a different shaped board because the A500's Denise is essentially a dip package, whereas this one has to press over the top of the surface mount chip. Right, once that's in there, we then have to get this connected up to the camera header on the Pi. Now, got to be careful, that one's display, that one's Pi's. There's the camera, so we need to pop this one in. Again, we pull the clip back. There's a little bit of tape over the top that we pull out, which is just there to keep the dust out, and then we have to connect this thing up. Now, this one goes in. I'm going to have a bit of a twist in the cable here, which is annoying, because the Pi needs to go in this way, and the pins are on that side of the... Oh yeah, so the contact pins go down, so need to make sure that goes in that way. Press. Ooh, there we go, make sure we...
Much cable fiddling later.
So this is now no longer overly visible on the camera. That's clipped in, we got the one twist there, and then we need to put the Pi in that way around. There you go, Pi's now in, ribbon's in place. It's not too badly twisted. I'll feed HDMI cable in. I'm afraid we're going to stick with our slightly... That's that in. Check the Pi board still on properly. Yeah, that actually fits rather well. I did have problems with the Vampire, the A600, constantly popping off the board. We don't seem to get that anywhere near as much with PiStorm, which is nice. I actually need to pop the keyboard ribbon in. Getting a bit more cramps now. Oh, that's a decent connection. Pop that around. Right. Finally, the last stage to get it all connected up is the power LEDs there, which, well, I can connect up, but you're not going to see that overly well on the camera. Right, now we'll loose press the case together. I'm not going to go not screwing that all in right now, because first of all I want to test the thing. Actually, I want to put the SD card in the Pi first, so just give me a second and I'll go grab the SD card. Right, I got the written SD card. I actually need to put that in the Pi. Try and carefully open this up so I can get access to it. Yeah, basically it works a lot better if you put the SD card in it. Yeah, that's in properly now. Put the lid back on the Amiga. I'll just go recover the power connector so we can start this thing up. Ooh, little bit of camera wobble there. Right, well, off camera I had a little investigate as to what was going on, and yeah, it looks like I just not seated the Pi in properly. Anyway, you can see it's now booted properly. Now the Pi's in. We are having an issue with the hard drive, but weirdly, we can now tell that the frame thrower is actually working because this screen mode is not an RTG one. This is being captured by the PiStorm using the frame thrower, and it's chucking it out over the HDMI. Now, I suspect I need to change some of the boot parameters in relation to the hard drive on this, because previously I didn't need any, but I think MU68 has moved on a little bit. I might need a few parameters now. So I'm going to take the SD card out and set some of the parameters in relation to accessing the SD card as a hard drive, because, yeah, although we've got a, well, sort of a workbench screen, we kind of haven't. In fact, let's try booting this into, if I hold down both mouse buttons, and see if we can get this to display us Kickstart's boot menu. We can. Awesome. So again, this shows us that the frame thrower is working, because this is using the actual Amiga's graphic chipset and not RTG, because this is just coming out the Kickstart ROM. But we can see it has picked up 2 virtual drives I've got set up, and their filing system types. So yeah, that's working. In fact, let's just disable the startup sequence, use that, and just try to boot the thing without the startup sequence. Be intrigued to see what that does. Yeah, so there we go. We've got, yeah, not a Unix box. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know you really want. All right, is that right? She's better lower. Yeah, we've not got the M thing set up. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I think we do need to update the operating system on this to cope with the updated version of MU64, but we do have this there. If I shrink this down a little bit. Oh, you're so workbench too. Right, there we go. There's my system disk. Yeah, obviously it's not perfectly happy. What I might do is go get an updated version of, I think I had caffeine on this, and just replace that disk image out, because I suspect I am missing a library, or have a library in here that is not wildly compatible with the updated MU64, but I'm sure we can solve that. Yeah. Let me know. Still, here we are using the original graphics chipset. We got a bit of a workbench thing going on. I do need to fix the OS, but yeah, the actual frame thrower bit is actually working. I could probably do with modifying the screen output a little bit because we're a tad more vertical than one would hope. I think I need to set the output resolution of that to something more helpful. Right, we'll be back in a bit. So right, well, we have our booting PiStorm, and I'll just move the angle a little bit. There we go. Now, you might have noticed the lighting's changed and everything's moved around a little bit, and that's because this is the following day from when I said I'll quickly go write an SD card. Because, yes, I have to do things like pick up my kids from school and feed them. Well, they complain quite a lot. So, it didn't take that long to actually write the SD card. And here we've now actually booted in. Now, the screen resolution's obviously got changed to something not so ideal for this particular machine, so I'm just going to prefs and try and sort that one out. Right, let's pick it up. No, they're not the resolutions I want. Come here. Oh, the arrow key does not do what you'd hope. They're the original Amiga modes. 12768 32-bit. Yeah, test that. Oh, there we go. That'll do. Right, use. Oh, might need to save that as well. Right, save. Right, so hopefully next time it boots up with a useful resolution for this screen. Right, so, nudge the camera. Let's try the big bit of firing up a game maybe that puts things into the original chipset mode. So, HD load, ECS, OCS. Oh, let's fire up iGame. Oh, there we go. We've got a whole bunch of so many games. Let's quickly. Let's try our favorite little bench test utility. Are you in here? Oh, hang on. There is a type ahead search. Yes, it is. Right. Let's launch you, shall we? Yeah, start. Right. Hopefully, the frame thrower will kick in. It'll flip outputs. Or maybe it won't. We lost mouse input. F10 to quit. Yeah, that has not jumped. Have you actually taken my options to start the frame thrower? Tell you what, let's
Editing me here. So what you can see me faffing around with, which I explained rather poorly on camera when I was talking about it, is there is a little config utility for the PiStorm that lets you set all the boot arguments for it. So I fiddle around a few of the arguments in there just to get the frame thrower configured properly. I also tinkered the colour of the boot screen, that way I can easily tell whether the settings I've saved have actually taken effect when I power the Amiga off and then back on again.
We now have to power our Amiga off. Give it a few seconds and power Amiga back on. Well, we've got a power light and we should see a slightly different, yes, grey splash screen, so we know our config change actually did kick in. Now, hopefully, that saving of the screen preferences means it will actually start in a screen resolution that's suitable for this particular. I'll take come on. There we go. Yep, it remembered. Cool. Let's just jump to a game. Where's the load? OCS. Try Frontier again. Go, start, right. Frame throws working, it should. There we go. And there we go. We've got an OCS game running on the H600's little graphics chip. And it's being captured by the frame thrower and sent back out over the HDMI. Nice. And this is, I think that could do with being stretched a little bit maybe. I can't remember what aspect ratio that was in. Right, let's click through the demo. Right. Yeah, I think that should probably be a little bit more full screen. Maybe we could stretch that out a little bit. What else have we got in here? Let's right. Let's start with the original Populous. I remember that was very much full screen. Right. F10 to pick we want to. Yeah, quite nice. Again, yeah, I think I do need to maybe make that take up slightly more of the screen. F10 to jump that back out. But that is working rather nicely. So I should say this is still it's still a work in progress. There may still be bugs in this. Frame thrower hasn't been around for a particularly long time. I mean, even just a couple of months ago, there were people still just testing this for the first time. So each update of MU68 seems to come with some modifications for it, for little things they found. But from what everyone says and from what I've seen here, yeah, it's actually working pretty well. I am well chuffed with that as a solution. One HDMI cable out, handles all my display. Oh, if only we could find a way of integrating audio into that thing at some point. Right, well, that will do for this video. I shall leave you all to it. Thanks for watching.